Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Wrestling Challenge review series for the 22nd of March, maybe the 21st of March, 1992. The episode I'm watching says 22nd, but I think it lines up as the 21st. Anyway, I think this is aired internationally. There's the day's difference. But anyway, this is right before WrestleMania 8, and obviously, this is a unique time. I was a major fan at the time. We stopped getting, actually, yeah, we did stop getting Wrestling Challenge in around 90, late 93, early 94. So 94 and 95 are seasons I did not see. We only got Superstars and then Raw. Um, but I have a couple of episodes from 1993 up as well today, or that I'm going to record later today, and also the SmackDown review if you're catching this on the day it's released. We've got over 1,000 audios available, modern wrestling and the old school stuff, a complete WCCW series, a Superstars of Wrestling series, a World Class series, a Mid South series, so much more. We are going to be the largest audio series of reviews on YouTube for pro wrestling, mainly of the era before 2000 is the goal anyway. British Bulldog and Bill Bad. Bill Bad, not a guy that I know a whole ton about. There is an inset promo with the Berserker, who is the, I guess, main adversary for Bulldog at the time. Bulldog, of course, months away from becoming the Intercontinental Champion with Bret Hart. Sends the man into the corner, then a clothesline, then the hanging suplex that Bulldog is known for. Then the running power slam. Very basic match, obviously, as the enhancement talent matches generally are. But Bulldog looks really good here, and ultimately, we go to getting ready for WrestleMania 8, Hogan's last match. They talk about that. Of course, his last match is for TNA in 2009, 10, 11, somewhere in there. So a long way away from 1992, goes without saying, and he's still talking all these years later in 2021 about wanting to do one more at nearly 70 years old, or 68, or whatever he is. They do an update, getting ready for the WrestleMania deal. The update includes the jumping of Virgil, the breaking of Virgil's nose by Sid Justice, actually Sid Vicious at the time, although Sid Justice is still his name here in 1992. They have not changed to the Vicious name. They wouldn't do that until his return in 95. Actually, Sid Vicious is more the name he's known for, but I think they had to purchase it. In any event, he breaks the nose of Virgil, and then there is an inset promo or a backstage promo where he talks about being the man to eliminate Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan had mentioned leaving the area, and Sid basically said he never talked about doing this until he signed the match with Sid. Of course, Sid turning at the Royal Rumble that year, or soon thereafter, actually, the beginning of February 1992, on the main event. Then we go to Danny Camo versus I believe Repo Man is up next as far as his adversary here. Decent enough match, or actually, no, that's Papa Shango. For some reason, I wrote Repo Man. I think it's because he's in the 93 episode that I have coming up a little later. But anyway, Papa Shango, obviously, right on the heels of his big push. Actually, a lot of people don't realize it, but he botches the finish for the Sid match at WrestleMania 8 by missing his time cue. And so that means that he, in fact, manages to get himself in a little bit of mischief. Papa Shango with some punches, kicks, basic stuff. Hits kind of the flying clothesline. Gimmick that I think they could have done a whole lot more with in the Papa Shango thing. Interesting that on a podcast lately, Bruce Pritchard basically kind of said the same thing, that the Papa Shango thing was underplayed a little bit and they could have done more with the magical aspects of his character. In 1992, he drops an elbow. He hits a kind of a flying clothesline, a little bit, kind of like IRS or The Undertaker at the time, and then hits the shoulder breaker, which, looking back, is a very different finish than we're used to. And then, but the right-off style clothesline is really interesting, especially for a guy Papa Shango's size. And then we go to an event center. The event center is for an upcoming Boston Garden show. Of course, remember, Boston Garden, a place that they went just about monthly. Got a chance to go to the Garden a few times, and was a good time. More familiar with the Providence Civic Center because that was closer to home for me, but did go to the Garden. Garden, a major force for the WWF from the 70s, actually WWF at the time from the 70s, till it closed in 1995. Jake Roberts basically is getting ready for Randy Savage. Interesting that Savage is kind of double layering two feuds at this time. One feud with Ric Flair, the dominant feud over the World Championship, but they are blowing off the Jake Roberts feud around the Horn cage matches. Would have liked to have seen Savage and Jake in a cage. Never got to see that. But in any event, Jake basically saying that dealing with the snake is more dangerous than the cage. And they actually have a bit of the cage set up, and Jake's kind of leaning on it, standing on it. Savage is fired up, ready to go by any stretch of the imagination. And he says he'll get rid of Flair and the Snake Man before it's all over. Savage is certainly an intense promo, to say the very least. Then we move on to another enhancement talent match. This time, the Big Boss Man is our main focus. Boss Man really in 92, kind of missing a feud until Nails comes in the spring. This is not the best year for him, but he takes the enhancement talent, hits a couple of shots, a punch, a kick, a body slam, and basic stuff. Hits the, I guess you'd say, the back of the head deal, and an uppercut. Boss Man certainly still wrestling like a brawler, but doing it with babyface motive in mind. Got a chance to meet the Boss Man as a kid this same year, November of 92, actually. Super nice guy, down-to-earth southern guy, and the idea that he was a vicious heel at one point is kind of lost on you when you meet him. Anyway, Boss Man slam, and he's victorious there. Then they go to a rather long, elongated interview segment running about 3 minutes or so, which for that time seems long. Ric Flair on a boat with Mr. Perfect basically talks about the fact that he had relations with Elizabeth first before Randy Savage. They kind of teased the rich lifestyle from Flair and all of that. So that is certainly there and a pretty massive message. And then we go to another enhancement talent match, this time Dale Wolf, otherwise known as Dusty Wolf. Guy I'd love to interview for this channel. So many good stories from Wolf. Wolf, of course, if you have listened to his previous podcast endeavors or shoot interviews, he talks about being the guy to take care of Zeus. His opponent here, Bret Hart. Bret Hart going into WrestleMania 8, of course, having what I consider to be Roddy Piper's best match. And obviously Piper and Hart. WrestleMania 8, probably the best match on that card. Anyway, and so Hart, at this point, your Intercontinental Champion. He holds on to that. Or actually not your Intercontinental Champion, that's Piper. But he's going to regain it at WrestleMania 8 and hold on to it through SummerSlam of same year. So Hart, a major force in this time period. He hits all his basic spots, standing dropkick, the backbreaker, the diving elbow, and the sharpshooter. I personally like Bret's 89 run where he uses the pile driver as a finish, but I'm partial to the pile driver anyway. Used to be, as a kid, the pile driver was my favorite wrestling move. I don't know who I first saw do it, but I loved it and thought it was a devastating move. And then my love for it increased when I first saw Memphis. Oddly, to see a Memphis show based out of, or kept coming on a New York television station on a early Saturday morning. I think we had like a block. I knew we had a block of wrestling that started around 9 in the morning and ran until 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And Memphis Wrestling CWA was one of the things that was on that block. And the way they sold the pile driver there made it even more my favorite move as a young kid. Anyway, so Hart eventually hooks the sharpshooter and obviously gets the victory. They hype WrestleMania 8 again in the kind of, get your tickets now kind of way, which obviously they were doing for the Indianapolis Hoosier Dome. I think they did like 40-some thousand. There's Repo Man. I knew he was on this show somewhere. Anyway, Repo Man kind of getting ready for the Tide Over program with the British Bulldog that happens in the spring of 92. Of course, Repo Man, previously, less than a year before, known as Smash of Demolition. Think about that. Just a transition into Repo Man happening relatively quickly. Anyway, Repo Man manages to hang his tow rope in the corner, go after his adversary. Repo punch kick, kind of does a hanging neckbreaker noose type hold, and then gets a victory, and then drags the man around by the neck with the tow rope. Certainly couldn't do that in 2021, without a doubt. But in any event, Repo is successful here, and he gets a victory, kind of locks on a half crab, and goes at it. Tito Santana up next. He kind of is talking about the challenges of being El Matador, kind of a directionless guy in 1992. He does give Shawn Michaels his first WrestleMania singles match here in 92. I don't know that was the original plan, but it is the plan for Michaels here. They open WrestleMania 8, and there's kind of that talk, but also Tito kind of lost a little bit in 92. I think he leaves sometime in early 93 after having a run from about 84 forward. So Tito has a nice long run. Matter of fact, the guys are talking about the Tito spot. Shawn Michaels is involved with Tito around the horn at this time, because they're talking about coming to Boston too. And Michael says he's going to let Sherry have the scratch game, whatever that means. Then we go to a WrestleMania report. Hulk Hogan basically says that the idea of Hulkamania being snuffed out by a guy like Sid is something he's not willing to do. Acknowledges it possibly being his last match, but says he's going to go out on top, and that's his expectation. Then we continue going on with, after the Hogan thing, we continue going on a little bit with Jake Roberts and, Jake Roberts and the Undertaker. Undertaker and Roberts, basically. The Roberts thing, he basically says that the DDT is the way that it's going to end. DDT is absolutely, and there we go with that. Savage says he's going to avenge Elizabeth, and that's his job come WrestleMania 8 against Ric Flair, and he's going to put Flair down once and for all. Undertaker says he doesn't have a bunch of support and doesn't have a lot of history in the WWF, but he, in fact, is going to get things going his way, and he will make sure Roberts rests in peace. Sid up next with a match here, and he manages to do everything he needs to do in order to get a victory here. Punch, kick, and a choke slam and a powerbomb, and Sid looks to be in peak condition here going into WrestleMania 8 in a couple of weeks. Obviously, they have people interviewing Hogan. Sid, post-match, knocks over a stretcher, and there we go. The Mountie manages to talk about an upcoming match with Bret Hart in the Boston area, wherein he talks about the fact that he finds that Hart is the reason he's not the Intercontinental Champion anymore. He wants his revenge for that, and, ultimately, he wants to eliminate Bret Hart. Nasty Boys and the Bushwhackers are up next. Bushwhackers, or actually at that house show, that is, but the Bushwhackers managed to let them know that they've dealt with Nasty Boys before, and they'll do it again if they have to, and they are ready for the Nasty Boys in the Boston area. So, in any event, we will close with that for today. We'll be back with more right after this.